Hey gang, Scott Davenport here. In this video, we're going to talk about tripod maintenance. Now, photographers, we're usually pretty good about maintaining our cameras, getting our sensors cleaned, cleaning our lenses. But our tripods need a little bit of love too. And if you take care of your tripod and maintain it well, it will last you a really long time. So I'm going to break that down for you in this video, from the quick clean to the full disassembly and reassembly of it. So let's dive in. Let's set the stage here a little bit. So I use a Really Right Stuff tripod. It's got twist locks as opposed to clamps. So if you've got a tripod that's got like leg locks that they fold over and lock down, the procedures will be slightly different, but fundamentally it's going to be the same thing. And the other thing is I'm using a carbon fiber tripod. So when I run it through water, I'm not worried about lingering water and any rust or things happening. So you have an aluminum tripod, you're going to want to dry things a little more carefully than what I'm showing in the video here. With that, quick clean. So after virtually every shoot that I go on, I will at least rinse the tripod down, just with the spigot outside of the house or wherever you happen to be staying. If I'm traveling, I'll stand the tripod up in the shower and just give it a rinse down, just to wash off any surface grime or salt or whatever else might have been in the air, or particulates, whatever it might be, just to get it kind of clean. And that will do a whole lot for your tripod and not make you have to disassemble and clean it as often. But there is going to be that time when you need to break the tripod down into its individual pieces and clean each one. So let's talk about that next. I'll start the disassembly process with the ball head. I'll remove that from the tripod base and run it under a thorough amount of fresh, clean water. I'm not using soap here. I'm just rinsing it thoroughly. I will loosen up all the various knobs. I'll make sure the ball head can rotate freely and rotate it while it's running under the water to make sure that I've gotten all the particulates off of the entire ball head. And you can listen to it too. If you hear any sound or grinding in there, run it through the water again. And I'm not using soap at this point. I will use a light soap solution, like a little bit of dish soap, if necessary, for the rest of the tripod. At this point, I'll turn the tripod over and start with the feet and work my way up. I usually have spikes on my tripod, so I'll take those off, run them through, rinse them out. Those tend to have the most sand and grit. So using a small brush, just a toothbrush, works fine to brush away any of the bits that are caught in the threads. And then working your way up through all the different leg segments. So each leg segment twist lock system has the twist lock itself, the leg piece itself, and then there are these couple of plastic tabs that kind of prevent the leg from flying out when you're in the field and not wanting to have it completely disassemble while you're out trying to take photos. So taking each one of those pieces out, rinsing it through, using a brush on the twist locks, and throughout the process, grabbing some towel or paper towel to wipe off any type of grease or grit that's in those grooves. So we'll see later, applying some grease to keep the twist locks smooth. Once I've finished with the cleaning, I've got to get that old grease off of the twist locks as well. Big thing here is staying organized. So different leg segments have different sizes, and especially for those little plastic tabs, those tend to match your individual leg segments. So as I'm taking apart each portion of the tripod, I'm being very particular about how I lay those out on the drying mat or towel that I use to get things to let them sit out overnight and dry. So I will work from each segment of the tripod. I'll do all three legs, the lowest segment, and then I'll do all three legs, the middle segment, and so forth. You can do whatever order you want to. Key thing is stay organized, keep the parts together. Most things are obvious. A twist lock isn't going to fit on any of the other leg segments properly. It's only going to fit properly on one. But those little plastic tabs that help keep the leg in while you're working with your tripod in the field, those are the things that are a little easier to get confused. So keep yourself organized as you're disassembling the pieces. Lay them out in order. Once the cleaning of each piece is done, I'll let all the pieces sit out overnight, dry thoroughly, and then it's time to put it back together. It's fundamentally the reverse order. Put the legs together first, then the feet, and finally the ball head. For the leg segments, you need to pay attention a bit to orientation as you're putting the pieces back together. Starting with a smaller leg segment that's going to fit into a larger leg segment. the smaller leg segment, you're going to get your twist lock and slide it over the leg segment. That twist lock needs to be facing, let's say, upward. So the twist locks, where they're going to connect to grooves on another leg segment, and to be facing upward toward that next segment. And these little small plastic pieces, these half cylinders, those sometimes have an orientation. There is a notch on the inside of those that will align with a hole in the tripod leg segment. So you can snap those together. But sometimes there's an orientation, and if you see the plastic is extending beyond the edge of the tripod segment, that might indicate it's in the wrong orientation and you'll have a little trouble putting it together. So just pay attention as you're taking things apart to see if you've got a particular orientation to your pieces, or check with your manufacturer's specs online. The other thing that will help you assemble is many times there is an arrow or some other type of indicator on the segments to show you where the groove, the space between these two half-cylinder plastic pieces is going to line up. That makes it very easy to put together the segments of your tripod. Once you've got the segments together, you grab a little bit of grease, usually just a basic lithium grease, and put that on the grooves of the tripod segment. So you're lubricating that twist lock, and then twist the lock on there, and I'll work it back and forth several times to make sure that the grease is thoroughly in those grooves and it's a nice smooth fluid action when you're twisting that lock. It makes it very easy to work. Future in the field, you do maybe a half twist, sometimes even a quarter twist, and you're ready to extend or contract your legs. So how often do you need to take apart your tripod and clean it thoroughly? That's all going to depend on your type of photography. After every shoot, I do recommend just giving it a simple rinse. That in and of itself will really extend the life of your tripod. Now, for everything else, it's going to depend. My cadence tends to be about every 3 months. I'm taking it apart and cleaning it. Now, that might seem frequent, and yours might be more like every 6 months, maybe every 9 months. How often are you shooting, and in what conditions are you going out? I'm at the ocean very often. Ocean air is full of salt. Salt is very corrosive. I have the tripod in salt water, and there's lots of sand. So I have very good reasons to clean my tripod thoroughly more frequently. And I've had my tripod now about 3+ years, and other than maybe a surface scratch here or there, it's behaving incredibly well. Everything is still smooth. The twist locks are good. The legs move in and out good. And it's because I clean it very often. And so I expect to get another 7 to 10 years out of it easily just by maintaining it. Now, there are a couple of situations where I think it would call for an immediate cleaning, something off of a standard cycle. And the first one's easy to tell. If you hear like really loud crunching sounds when you're twisting a lock and it's grinding because you can hear that there's grit or something else in there, it's time to take it apart and clean that out. Similarly, if you're trying to extend or contract the legs and you're hearing those types of grinding noises, or it's just difficult to move, it's time to take it apart and clean things out. The other one that may be less obvious, and this is more of a salt water situation, anytime that I have a twist lock that gets submerged in salt water, I consider that grounds for an immediate cleaning. And that's because salt water, besides being corrosive in and of itself, it's also a very incredible sand delivery system. There's lots of tiny bits of sand, and those get into the twist locks immediately once a single twist lock has gone underwater. Well, that's it. That's tripod maintenance. That's at least what I do and how I do it. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope it helps you out. And I hope it makes you a little less scared about taking your tripod apart. It's not as bad as it seems. Just take it slow, be methodical, and you're going to get many more years out of your tripod. Thanks very much. My name's Scott Davenport, and have a great time shooting.